What's up, my peeps? Time for the second ever 5-minute review, this time for Clash of Champions. Let's go. So first match, Nia Jax versus Alicia Fox. I guess it was the best match that Nia Jax has had yet, but I mean, that's not saying much, because since now, or until now, I mean, she's only faced off against local talent, and now she faces off against Alicia Fox. Alicia got some offense in, she got her scissors kick, that got a 2 count, but of course, at the end of the day, we all knew Nia Jax was gonna win. Okay match, I guess. And then moving on to the main show, Luke Gallows, Karl Anderson versus The New Day. I enjoyed this match. It was, right off the bat, they had some action. It was pretty action-packed, pretty fast-paced. It wasn't a really slow match with a bunch of sleeper holds or headlocks and all of that. A bunch of big spots in the match, and at the end, the New Day actually retained the tag team titles, which further supports my point that I think the New Day is going to hold on to those belts until they surpass the Demolition as the longest reigning tag team champions, period. By the way, towards the end there, when the New Day hit their tag team finisher, the crowd actually booed, so the crowd might be starting to turn on the New Day. But once again, solid performance by the New Day. They've been getting stale for a bit now, and it seems like now the casual crowd also feels that way, especially with the boos towards the end of that match. Now, moving on, we had the Cruiserweight Championship match, TJ Perkins versus Brian Kendrick. They introduced TJ Perkins prior to the match with an interview, and I was expecting this to be the match of the night, but it was a disappointment. I feared that they would go ahead and tone down the style, the Cruiserweight style that we saw in the Cruiserweight Classic, and it definitely seems like they did. And it's not that it was a bad match, it's just if you come from watching the tournament, and then you watch this expecting, I guess, the same type of match, you'll be disappointed. That's all I mean by that. It was actually a good match. It had some impressive moments in there. You even had Brian Kendrick hitting sliced bread and TJ Perkins kicking out of it. TJ Perkins going for a 450. Brian Kendrick dodging it. You had TJ Perkins jumping from the top, hitting a hurricane run on Brian Kendrick, who's on the apron, to the outside. And at the end, TJ made him tap out to the knee bar. Following the match, he was going to have an interview, but Brian Kendrick interrupts him or gets in front of his face. So then TJ extends his hand for a handshake. Brian Kendrick shakes the hand, but then bam, hits him with a headbutt. And that's it for that. So, good match, just did not live to the expectations that I had. And then we had Cesaro versus Sheamus, which actually exceeded my expectations, but the finish was not what I expected, and it's not what I or anybody else really would have wanted to see because nobody won the match. They ended the match as a no contest when Cesaro went ahead and clotheslined Sheamus over the barricade, and they were both down. Referees and medics were checking on them, and they called the match. Cesaro was like, yo, I can't feel one of my arms, and then they ruled it a no contest. And then Cesaro looked pretty pissed. It was like, yo, I can wrestle with one arm, I've done it before, but the refs were having none of it. And I don't know if it's real or not, because actually at some point in the match, Cesaro hit a suicide dive and landed straight on his head. And then he kept on wrestling like it never happened. But, yo, he really landed on his head there. It looked pretty damn bad. It was a great match. They both kicked out of the other's finishers, but I guess we're gonna have to wait to actually see who ends up winning this. During that match, I actually thought Sheamus was gonna end up with the win. Anyways, moving on, we had Sammy versus Chris Jericho. This was also a decent match, and Jericho picked up the win out of nowhere with the Codebreaker. And then we had the triple threat women's match, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley. This was a decent match too. It wasn't one of the better women's matches recently. Actually, I might even prefer the match that they had at Backlash, the six-pack challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship. But Charlotte really impressed in this one. She actually pulled off a double moonsault on both Bayley and Sasha Banks. And then we had Rusev versus Roman. This, to me, was the most boring match on the card. It just felt really slow after seeing all the other matches on the card. Picked up the speed a bit towards the end. Lana got kicked out of ringside, and Roman Reigns ends up winning with a second spear, and he actually wins the US title. I thought Rusev was going to retain, or Roman wins via DQ, because I couldn't picture Roman with the US title, but I guess I was wrong. And then Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a good main event. But the ending there, man, it had, like, Jericho got in, he got involved, but that lasted for, like, what, 10 minutes or something like that, while Jericho's getting involved. I mean, he gets involved, Seth Rollins takes him out, he gets back in, Seth Rollins takes him back out, he gets back in, Seth Rollins takes him back out, and then finally, Kevin Owens hits the pop-up powerbomb. I'm like, yo, what is Kevin Owens or Jericho gonna distract Seth Rollins to allow Kevin Owens to hit the pop-up powerbomb? Anyways, at the end, they take out one of the refs. Stephanie sends out another ref, but that ref, instead of going straight to the ring, goes ahead and checks up on the other ref that's down, while Seth Rollins is like waiting for him and distracted, so then KO hits the pop-up powerbomb and gets the win. So, while there were some disappointing finishes, a disappointing match, there were some good matches in there, especially Cesaro vs. Sheamus, which was the match of the night for me, and I'm gonna give Clash of Champions a 6.5 out of 10. Compared to Backlash, Backlash wins. Backlash was solid from top to bottom. Every single match was good to me. And that's pretty much it. Let me know what you thought of Clash of Champions in the comments below, and let me know what you thought was the match of the night. With that said, I'm out. See ya.